Passcodes are truly a strange and wonderful thing. Originally designed to skirt around the expense of having to include battery backup in a game, they've gone on to unlock all manner of strange quirks and features, some of which the developer never even intended to happen. Case in point, Nintendo's Metroidvania classic, Metroid, the NES game that turned backtracking into an entire genre. Now, long-time viewers may remember the offensive passcodes episode from my Fact Hunt series, where I go into detail all the rude words you can enter into the game's password screen, with the most infamous of all being the code "Engage Ridley, motherfucker." Essentially, the game ironically does indeed begin with Ridley already defeated, but it not only starts you off in an invalid location, inside a wall in Brinstar to be specific, but it also tells the console you've been playing non-stop for 2,755,656 consecutive hours of game time, aka a staggering 314 years. So this huge number of hours logged into the game's memory renders scrolling impossible and a ton of graphical garbage on screen. Now amazingly, the original hardware can actually handle this mess. You can't do anything in the game, but it's still playable. However, playing the earlier released 5-screw version of the cartridge does actually crash the hardware. Strange really, as for all intensive purposes, the game inside is the exact same code as the later 3-screw version. But the bricking began when Nintendo decided to re-release the game on future systems. So let's have a look at what happens when you enter the code on all Nintendo systems Metroid has been released on over the years. Entering the code on a Nintendo Switch version will result in an error message appearing on screen, booting you back to the main menu. While entering the code in the NES Mini Classic release can result in a similar error screen, which once again boots you back to the main menu. However, this error occasionally even soft bricks the entire device, resulting in you having to unplug the machine, then holding in the power button for several seconds to reboot. According to Nintendo's website, if this error persists, then you need to return the unit as it's now deemed defective. Nintendo re-released a number of NES games in their classic line for the Game Boy Advance, and Metroid was one of those titles. However, the code simply crashes again once more. Could this be using the ROM from the 5-screw NES release, perchance? Not known to too many people, but the GameCube also had a port of the game. Hidden inside Metroid Prime is a secret playable version of Metroid that's accessible if you plug in a completed copy of the Game Boy Advance title Metroid Fusion into one of the controller ports. However, entering the Engage Ridley code into this version simply resets the game. Interestingly, the game was removed from Metroid Prime Trilogy when it was re-released on the Wii. But that's most likely because Nintendo wanted to nickel and dime you into buying the Wii Virtual Console version instead. Speaking of which, the Wii and Wii U's Virtual Console versions both come up with the same result, with the console once again resetting the entire game back to the title screen. Not surprising really, considering the GameCube, Wii and Wii U all run on similar architecture and thereby probably the same emulator as well. However, I'm saving the best, or rather worst, till last, as the most damaging version of the game is most definitely the 3DS release. Entering the code this time brings the entire system to a standstill, completely soft bricking the system and forcing you to hold the power button down for 5 seconds to perform an emergency reset. Now, this is bad enough as it is, especially if you didn't know about the emergency reset. But if you were foolish enough not to have updated your firmware since 2016, you've essentially just made yourself a very expensive paperweight as your system is forever locked on a blank screen. You've only gone and forever bricked it, my friend. But all in all, it is truly quite fascinating that not only have Nintendo never patched the Engage Ridley code out of the game for future releases, something they have previously done to some other Virtual Console ROMs, But they had such faith in their emulation software used over several system generations, they never took into account such a primitive title could not only crash, but also cause permanent damage to a console. But I suppose this is Nintendo we're talking about here. Hello you, thanks ever so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe to be first to see future Fact Hunt episodes. Click on the bell if you already are to make sure you're notified, and be sure to check out my other episodes. And if you want to be super awesome, check out my Patreon. But thanks again for watching, and I'll be seeing you next time. Ta-ra for now.